There is a silence you've heard before, though you cannot remember when. A pause in the middle of conversation. A shadow that flickers behind familiar eyes. You brush it off. You smile. But deep in your chest, something ancient tenses, then listens. You've known people your whole life, shared meals, laughter, memories. And yet, some part of you remains untouched by them. It's as if they're there, but not really there. Their eyes look back at you, but nothing reaches. Their words land, but leave no trace. And all you're left with is a subtle, lingering question. Where is their soul? This question is not new. It has lived in the undercurrents of human memory for centuries, disguised as superstition, dismissed as paranoia. But it persists because something in you already knows. You know that not everyone you meet is truly alive, not in the way that matters. Tonight, you are not here by accident. This message is not meant for the many, but for the few who have felt the weight of this truth without words to hold it. For those who have stood before a smile that felt scripted. For those who have felt the ache of loving someone who could never truly feel them back. You are being invited into a quiet initiation, not to judge, not to separate, but to see, to remember. There are those among us who appear human, sound human, move through the world as human, but lack the inner fire that gives meaning to form. They are the empty masks, the echoes, the ones who mirror but do not carry. This is not a fantasy. This is a frequency. And when you begin to feel it, really feel it, something inside you will shift. Not with fear, but with clarity. This is your threshold. The veil is thinning, and behind it lies a truth that may unsettle you, but it will never lie to you. You were made to remember this. You were born to recognize what others ignore. So take a breath. Let your body go still. And feel the whisper, not with your ears, but with the part of you that has always known. Now, let us begin. We were raised on a quiet belief, rarely questioned, that to be human is to have a soul. It was never written in bold, never declared from pulpits, but lived between assumptions. We looked into eyes and expected life. We heard words and assumed meaning. We felt a smile and believed somewhere behind it was someone real. But the soul does not wear a name tag. It does not shine in every gaze or echo in every voice. And slowly, through years of subtle dissonance, some begin to notice. Something is off. You sit across from a person who mirrors every emotion with stunning precision. Their eyes flicker at the right time. Their voice carries the right warmth. Their hands know when to comfort. But as you watch them, something inside you retreats, not out of judgment, but confusion, because presence should feel different than this. It should hum, not just echo. This is the first crack in the illusion. Realizing that full performance does not guarantee essence. They look complete. But the more time you spend, the more you feel the vacancy. A hollow that is not sad or broken, just absent. You reach for them not through words, but through frequency, and feel nothing looking back. No shimmer, no echo, no recognition. It feels like speaking into a canyon where the walls have been smoothed too clean to carry sound. This is the moment the old belief begins to falter. Maybe not every face you meet carries a soul behind it. Not in a metaphorical sense, not in some poetic emptiness, but in a literal, energetic reality. They are here. They function. They belong to the script, but something vital never sparked within. They are, as some traditions whisper, empty vessels, organic portals, beings of form, emotion, memory, but not of fire. And this recognition does not come from books or teachers. It rises slowly from lived experience. From the feeling you get after long conversations that leave you colder, not warmer. From being loved with perfect gestures, yet never truly touched. From the moment you cry and realize they're watching your tears, not feeling your pain, the absence is not loud. It's not hostile. It's smooth, polite, compliant. But it leaves no imprint. That's when you understand. A soul isn't shown in behavior. It's felt through vibration. And some people, no matter how close they stand, never meet you there. Not because you're hard to reach, but because they were never made to. This is not a theory. It is a knowing. One you carry in your bones long before your mind finds the words, and it begins, quietly, steadily, to change everything. They walk, speak, love, and grieve. They fill the roles of parent, partner, friend, stranger. Their lives unfold with detail, names, habits, preferences, even memories. And yet, something is missing. Not in the story they tell, but in the source it comes from. You begin to feel it, as if you're watching a well-acted play with no actor behind the curtain. This is where the idea of the organic portal emerges, a phrase whispered in hidden corners of esoteric teaching. It refers to a being biologically human, emotionally responsive, intellectually capable, but lacking a differentiated soul. A consciousness that is not sovereign, but collective, not self-aware, but patterned. To encounter such a being is not like meeting a villain. It's like meeting a mirror that reflects light but does not generate any of its own. You sense their reactions are learned, not lived. Their affections, though perfectly delivered, never seem to ripple into your core. Their sadness ends when the scene ends. Their joy mimics yours, but fades when the moment passes. They say what should be said, feel what should be felt, act how people should act, but none of it seems to take root in anything real. They are, in the most literal sense, echoes, not of malice, but of programming. Replicas of emotional presence. Constructed identities sustained by collective patterns. And the more you try to connect, the more you feel the loop, like dancing with someone who moves with you but never actually touches you. This is not a new concept. The Gnostics spoke of archons, entities that maintain illusion and order without spirit. Vedantic texts explored prakriti, the material nature that operates without inner knowing. In Buddhism, the wheel of samsara turns endlessly with beings who act, suffer, and desire without waking up. Across traditions, the myth remains: not all who walk carry the divine spark. Organic portals aren't rare. In fact, they may form the unseen scaffolding of society, filling space, repeating roles, upholding the illusion of normal. Their function isn't to destroy or deceive. It's to stabilize the dream, to anchor the simulation in believable form. And you've likely felt them most in places where routine dominates, where conformity is rewarded, where inner life is dismissed as delusion. You've sensed them in crowded rooms where no one seems truly there. You've shared moments with them, perhaps even love, but found yourself lonelier than when alone. Because the difference isn't in behavior, it's in resonance. A soul vibrates. An echo reflects. And when you speak to a soul, something ancient inside you softens, remembers. But when you speak to an echo, the silence afterward feels louder than your words. This is not an accusation. It's a recognition. And in that recognition, something begins to awaken, not fear, not blame, but a clarity that no longer seeks reflection, but begins to seek fire. It is easy to confuse the two: sleep and emptiness, stillness and absence. But there is a chasm between them, quiet, invisible, yet vast. The sleeping soul is still a soul. It dreams, it forgets, it hides beneath layers of survival. But somewhere deep beneath the numbness, it still stirs. It still longs. The soul that sleeps recoils at truth, resists awakening, but cannot fully ignore the call. There is pain in their distance. There is hesitation, even fear. But where there is fear, there is still life. Emptiness is something else entirely. The empty one does not flinch at truth because they do not feel it. They do not resist because there is nothing in them to resist. Like a mirror, they reflect light, but are never touched by it. Their presence is functional, not felt. Their reactions are appropriate, not chosen. Their lives move forward but never deepen. This is where the distinction matters, not to separate in judgment, but to discern in clarity. You've felt both. The friend who withdraws when you speak of inner worlds, but whose silence trembles, revealing a soul uncertain, still hiding. And then the companion who nods, smiles, listens, but leaves no energetic imprint, no residue of presence behind. One sleeps. The other is uninhabited. It is tempting, in our longing to connect, to blur these lines, to call everything trauma, to believe that everyone, given enough light, will awaken. But not every form contains a flame, and not every silence holds a voice waiting to return. There are those who cry, and the cry is hollow, who laugh, and the laughter is mechanical, who seem to love but never truly see. Their role is not malicious, but performed, scripted, without the subtle chaos of inner will. Their emotional range mimics life but carries no weight, no pulse. You feel it when their love feels like echo, not essence. When conflict becomes choreography, not rupture. When their stillness feels like blankness, not peace. The sleeping respond in time to light, to honesty, to presence. They wince, they shift, they sometimes run, but there is a dance occurring beneath the surface. The soulless remain unchanged. Whether you shine or shrink, love or withdraw, rage or surrender, their field stays flat. No inner mirror is tilted. No true reflection returns. And so, it is not cruelty to name the void. It is kindness to your own spirit to stop pouring into it. Not every closed door hides a sleeper. Some are simply walls. And once you recognize that, the ache inside you no longer feels like failure. It becomes a compass. One that quietly says, seek flame, not shadow. Seek depth, not response. Because to know the difference is not to divide the world. It is to come home to your own light. There is something unmistakable about being truly felt. It doesn't come from words or gestures or even touch. It arrives in a frequency, like a vibration that wraps around you, invisible but undeniable. When you are seen by a soul, you don't question it. You feel it, in the silence between sentences, in the space between presence and performance. It lands in your chest like warmth, like recognition, like home. This is the fire, and it cannot be faked. The world, however, is filled with brilliant impersonations. People who know the dance, who offer just the right expressions, who say all the right things. But when you step back, when you stop engaging the surface, you realize nothing moved within you. No part of you was stirred. There was no residue left behind. Only performance. Only reflection. You begin to understand. Soul is not about appearance. It's not in how a person looks at you, or how well they empathize, or how generous their words sound. It's in their frequency. And some frequencies, no matter how perfect their pattern, carry no spark, no ignition. A being with a soul will tremble near truth. Even in denial, something within them shifts. Their energy ripples. Their stillness has breath. There's a thrum beneath their pain, their joy, their silence, a pulse that responds even if slowly. But in others, you may find nothing. Stillness that is not calm but empty. Eyes that do not blink but reflect. A presence that mimics light but never warms you. This is where discernment becomes sacred. Carl Jung once warned us that what we see as soulless in others may often be the parts of ourselves we have disowned. That projection can blind us to truth, and he was right. So pause, look again. Sometimes what feels vacant is only wounded, hidden behind walls too thick to break in a single moment. Sometimes what seems hollow is actually someone numbed by pain, waiting for safety. But not always. And this is the fire's quiet lesson. When something truly lacks the soul's presence, no amount of love, patience, or truth will cause it to burn. No spark will catch, no ember will glow, you'll speak and nothing will echo back. You'll offer depth and receive a surface. You'll cry and feel watched, not held. This is not failure, it's reality. And there is a freedom in that reality. Because the fire inside you is not meant to be proven, it is meant to be lived, protected, shared only where it can truly warm, not just illuminate. Let your soul stop trying to awaken echoes. Let it seek the ones who remember fire. And in that remembering, you begin to recognize your own light not by who reflects it, but by who resonates with it. Because the soul doesn't argue. It burns. And in that burn, there is no pretending, only truth.